The morning sun painted Earth's sky in soft colors as director Kim Taeman walked through the halls of the Global Peace Center. His footsteps echoed against the polished floors that had seen thousands of alien visitors over the past 40 years. Today would be another day of careful words and delicate balance, just like every day since Earth became the galaxy's meeting place. Kim stopped at the large window overlooking the landing pads. 3 different alien ships sat there, each one representing a different world with different problems. The sleek silver vessel belonged to the Kalani Federation, while the dark angular craft was from the Vorthak Empire. Both groups had been fighting each other for over 20 years, and Earth was their only hope for peace. Ambassador Park So-jin approached him, carrying a tablet full of the day's schedule. She looked tired but determined. The Kalani delegation arrived early this morning, she said. They want to discuss the mining rights on Sector 7 before the main talks begin. Kim nodded. And the Vorthak? Still angry about last week's incident. 3 of their cargo ships were attacked near the border. They blame the Kalani. Park So-jin sighed. Both sides are ready to walk away from the talks. This was nothing new. Kim had spent most of his life keeping different alien races from killing each other. Earth's position as a neutral world meant they could host these meetings, but it also meant they had to be very careful not to take sides. Lee Dong-woo hurried toward them, his face showing worry. As Park So-jin's assistant, he handled the day-to-day problems of housing aliens who needed different air, food, and temperatures. Director, we have a problem with the Zephyrian delegates. They say their rooms are too warm, but if we make them cooler, the Thornax will get sick. Kim almost smiled. After 40 years of this work, alien comfort complaints seemed simple compared to preventing wars. Move the Zephyrians to the lower level. It stays cooler there naturally. Already tried that, sir. They don't like being underground. Something about their religious beliefs. Before Kim could answer, an alarm sounded softly through the building. It wasn't an emergency alarm, just the signal that an unscheduled ship was approaching Earth. Captain Choi Minho's voice came through the communication system. Director Kim, we have a new arrival. The ship identifies itself as belonging to the Dracoth hegemony. They're requesting permission to land and attend the peace talks. Kim felt a chill run down his back. The Dracoth hegemony was not known for peace talks. They were known for taking over other worlds by force. In the past 10 years, they had conquered 17 different star systems. No one had been able to stop them. Did they say why they want to attend? Kim asked. Negative, sir. Just that they have important business to discuss. Kim looked at Park So-jin, who shook her head slightly. Neither of them liked this, but Earth's rules were clear. Any group could request to attend peace talks as long as they followed Earth's laws while they were here. Give them permission to land, Kim said finally. But assign extra security. An hour later, Kim stood in the main conference room watching the Dracoth delegation enter. There were 5 of them, all wearing dark uniforms that looked more like military clothes than diplomatic ones. Their leader was tall and moved like a soldier, not a diplomat. The alien spoke through a translation device that made his voice sound flat and emotionless. I am Commander Vex-High of the Dracoth hegemony. We come to observe these peace talks. Kim stepped forward. Welcome to Earth, Commander. I am Director Kim Taeman. We are honored to have you join our discussions. The Dracoth commander looked around the room at the other alien delegates, his eyes showing no warmth. Director Kim, your planet has an interesting reputation. You claim to be neutral in all conflicts, and that is correct. Earth does not take sides in disputes between other worlds. Neutrality. The commander seemed to taste the word. My people have a different word for this. We call it weakness. The room became very quiet. Park So-jin moved slightly closer to Kim, ready to step in if needed. The other alien delegates watched carefully, sensing danger. Kim kept his voice calm and polite. Commander, many see strength in different ways. We believe our strength comes from helping others find peaceful solutions. Peace. Again, the commander seemed to find the word distasteful. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Director. The strong take what they need. The weak serve the strong. This is the natural order. Perhaps, Kim said. But here on Earth, we have found that cooperation brings better results than conquest. The commander stepped closer. Kim could see that the alien's eyes were completely black, like deep space itself. Director Kim, let me be very clear. The Dracoth hegemony is expanding our territory. Soon, we will control this entire sector of the galaxy. When that time comes, worlds will need to choose sides. They will join us willingly or they will be conquered. And Earth? Kim asked, though he already knew the answer. Earth will choose to support the Dracoth hegemony or Earth will be considered an enemy. There is no neutral ground in war, Director. Your people have grown soft playing peacemaker. When real conflict comes, neutrality will not protect you. The commander turned to look at the other delegates. This applies to all worlds represented here. Choose strength or be destroyed by it. With that, the Dracoth delegation walked out of the room, leaving behind a silence that felt heavy and dangerous. Park So-jin was the first to speak. That sounded like a threat. It was a threat, Kim replied. He looked at the faces of the other alien delegates. Some looked scared, others angry. All of them looked worried. Later that day, Kim met with his senior staff in his private office. Captain Choi Min-ho had come down from the orbital stations, and Dr. Yoon Hae-won had joined them as well. She was Earth's best expert on alien cultures and had been studying the Dracoth for several years. What do you think, Doctor? Kim asked. Is this just bluster or should we be worried? Dr. Yoon Hae-won set down her tablet and looked serious. Director, I've been studying Dracoth culture for a long time. They do not make empty threats. In their society, making a threat you cannot carry out is considered shameful. If Commander Vexhai said they would attack Earth, then they mean it. But surely they understand that attacking Earth would make them enemies with every other world, Park So-jin said. We host delegations from over 200 different species. That might be exactly why they want to attack us, Dr. Yoon replied. If they destroy Earth's neutrality, they destroy the galaxy's ability to organize against them. No more peace talks, no more cooperation between different worlds, just chaos which the Dracoth can use to their advantage. Captain Choi Min-ho had been quiet, but now he spoke up. Our orbital defense platforms are strong, but they're designed to deter attacks, not fight off a full invasion fleet. If the Dracoth bring their entire military, we could have problems. Kim stood up and walked to his window. Outside, alien children from a dozen different worlds were playing in the park, their parents watching and talking peacefully together. This was what Earth had built over 40 years of careful diplomacy. This was what they were trying to protect. Send a message to Earth's government, Kim said finally. Tell them we may need to activate the emergency protocols and quietly contact our allies. If the Dracoth want to end Earth's neutrality, they need to understand what that really means. None of them spoke about the deeper implications. None of them mentioned the classified files that only a few people on Earth knew about. For now, they would continue to hope that diplomacy could prevent the coming storm. But as the sun set over Earth's peaceful cities, Kim Tae-min felt certain that their 40 years of neutrality were about to end. The question was not whether the Dracoth would attack, but whether Earth was ready for what would happen afterward. The galaxy was about to learn that neutrality and weakness were not the same thing at all. 3 weeks had passed since the Dracoth commander made his threat. Life on Earth continued as normal. The peace talks between the Kalani and Vorthak were making slow progress, and new alien delegations arrived every few days. Director Kim Tae-min almost began to hope that the Dracoth had been making empty threats after all. He was reviewing morning reports when the first alarm sounded. Captain Choi, Min-ho's voice came through the emergency communication system, tight with tension. Director, we have multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. 67 vessels, all showing Dracoth signatures. They're not responding to our calls. Kim dropped his tablet and ran to the emergency command center. The large screens showed what looked like a nightmare. Dozens of dark angular ships had appeared around Earth without warning. They were not arranged like a diplomatic fleet or even a show of force. They were positioned for attack. Are they targeting our defense stations? Kim asked. Negative, sir, Captain Choi replied from his orbital platform. They're targeting civilian areas, schools, hospitals, the refugee centers. Before Kim could respond, the first energy beams lanced down from space. They struck the Galaxy Cultural Center in Neo-Seoul, where children from 12 different worlds had been learning about each other's music. The building vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. Sergeant Kang Woo-jin was at the new Shanghai Refugee Center when the attack began. He had been talking to a group of young Zephyrian refugees who had fled their war-torn homeworld, helping them understand Earth's safety procedures. The children were laughing at his attempts to speak their language when the sky lit up with fire. The energy beam hit the center's east wing, where the youngest refugees lived. Kang threw himself over 3 small Zephyrian children as debris rained down around them. When the dust cleared, he could hear crying and screaming in a dozen different languages. "Emergency teams to all sections," he called into his radio, then looked at the children he had protected. They were scared but alive. "Stay here. Do not move until I come back." Kang ran toward the damaged wing, pulling small bodies from the rubble. Some were human children. Others were young aliens whose parents had brought them to Earth seeking safety. All of them had been innocent. All of them had trusted Earth to protect them. Emergency responder Oh Sumin arrived at the Galaxy Cultural Center just as the second wave of attacks began. The beautiful building where alien musicians had been preparing for a peace concert was now a smoking crater. She could see the twisted remains of instruments from a dozen different worlds scattered across the ground. Medical teams needed at sectors 7, 12, and 15. Her radio crackled. "We have massive casualties." O coordinated the rescue efforts while trying not to think about how many children had been in the building when it was destroyed. The Dracoth were not attacking military targets or government buildings. They were killing civilians on purpose, trying to break Earth's spirit by murdering the innocent. In the orbital command center, Captain Choi Min-ho watched his defense platforms engage the enemy fleet. The platforms had been built to deter attacks, not to fight a war. They were strong, but there were too many Dracoth ships and more kept arriving. "Platform 7 is taking heavy damage," reported Nam Ji-hai from the surface. "They're concentrating fire on our strongest positions. Pull back the damaged platforms and rotate fresh ones into position," Choi ordered. But he knew they were fighting a losing battle. The Dracoth had brought their full military force while Earth's defenses were designed for peacekeeping, not warfare. The attacks continued for 2 hours. When the Dracoth finally stopped firing, large parts of Earth's major cities were in ruins. The refugee centers, schools, and cultural buildings had been specifically targeted. The message was clear. Earth's neutrality was dead, and anyone who had trusted Earth's protection had paid the price. Director Kim Tae-min stood in his damaged office, looking at reports that made his heart break. 37,000 civilians dead. Over half of them were aliens who had come to Earth seeking peace. Children, artists, refugees, diplomats, all murdered to make a point about strength versus weakness. Ambassador Park So-jin entered his office, her clothes torn and dust in her hair from helping with rescue operations. "Director President Yang Mi-kyung is calling an emergency session. All world leaders are to meet in 1 hour." Kim nodded. He had known this day might come, though he had hoped it never would. "Contact Admiral Han Kyung-soo. Tell him it's time for Protocol 7. Park So-jin's eyes widened. She was one of only 7 people on Earth who knew what Protocol 7 really meant. "Are you certain, Director? Once we activate it, there's no going back. Look outside, So-jin. Look at what they did to innocent children. Earth's neutrality ended the moment they chose to murder civilians." Kim straightened his shoulders. "It's time the galaxy learned who we really are." An hour later, President Yang Mi-kyung addressed the world from her secure bunker. Her face was grim as she spoke to billions of humans and thousands of alien refugees. "My fellow humans and our alien friends who have made Earth their home," she began. "Today, the Dracoth hegemony committed an act of pure evil. They murdered innocent civilians to make a point about power. They killed children to demonstrate their strength." She paused, and when she continued, her voice carried a weight that seemed to reach across space itself. "For 47 years, Earth has remained neutral in galactic conflicts. We have served as peacekeepers, mediators, and protectors of the innocent. Today that neutrality ends. Around Earth's system, alien ships began receiving an emergency broadcast on all frequencies. Ambassador Park So-jin's voice was calm, but carried an undertone of barely controlled fury. "Attention all civilian vessels and non-combatant personnel. This is Earth Command. All alien civilians are ordered to evacuate to designated safe zones immediately. Move to the following coordinates and await further instructions." She paused, and when she continued, her words sent chills through every alien who heard them. "All military vessels not affiliated with the Dracoth hegemony are advised to withdraw to minimum safe distance. What happens next is not your fight. It is ours." The broadcast continued. "To the Dracoth hegemony, you have chosen to end Earth's neutrality by murdering innocent civilians. You have mistaken our patience for weakness and our diplomacy for cowardice. This was a mistake you will not survive." On Dracoth command ships, alien officers looked at each other in confusion. Earth was a peaceful world with limited defenses. What could they possibly do against the might of the hegemony? They were about to find out. Deep beneath Earth's major cities, massive elevator platforms began to rise. Hidden installations that had been disguised as lakes and mountains started to reveal their true nature. The civilian shipping lanes that crisscrossed Earth's solar system suddenly came alive with activity as hidden supply depots opened their doors. Most shocking of all, human colonies scattered across dozens of peaceful worlds simultaneously dropped their civilian facades. Research stations became forward military bases. Trading posts revealed themselves as intelligence gathering centers. Peaceful farmers turned out to be trained soldiers who had been waiting for this day. Admiral Han Kyung-soo, a man whose name appeared in no public records and who had supposedly been dead for 20 years, walked onto the bridge of a ship that didn't officially exist. Around him, displays showed the largest military fleet in known space preparing for battle. Communications. Broadcast on all frequencies, he ordered. All channels open, Admiral. Han looked out at the stars that had watched humanity pretend to be weak for nearly 50 years. This is Admiral Han Kyung-soo of the Terran Defense Force. To all Draketh vessels, you came to Earth expecting to find weak prey. You murdered innocent civilians to prove your strength. His voice carried across space to reach every ship, every station, every world within range. You were wrong about us. Earth's neutrality was not weakness. It was mercy. Mercy you have forfeited by choosing to kill children. You wanted to see Earth's true strength? You wanted us to choose sides in your war? The Admiral smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. Congratulations. You have succeeded. But I promise you this. You will not live to regret it. Across the galaxy, species that had known Earth as peaceful mediators watched in shock as the truth was revealed. Humanity had not been neutral observers. They had been the galaxy's apex predators, carefully studying their potential prey while pretending to be harmless. The Draketh had awakened something that had been sleeping for 47 years. Now they would learn the difference between choosing their enemies and having their enemies chosen for them. The hunt was about to begin. The transformation of Earth happened so fast that alien observers thought they were watching some kind of magic. Within 6 hours of Admiral Han Kyung-soo's broadcast, the peaceful world of diplomats and farmers had become something entirely different. Commander Lim Da-hai sat in the cockpit of her fighter, waiting for the launch signal. Her ship looked nothing like the standardized vessels used by other galactic militaries. Where alien ships were built for specific purposes, human fighters were designed to adapt. They could change their weapon systems, modify their shields, and adjust their engines based on what they were fighting. Red Squadron, this is Control, came the voice in her headset. You are cleared for launch. Remember, the enemy thinks they know how space combat works. Show them they're wrong. Lim smiled as her fighter shot out of the hidden hangar beneath Lake Geneva. Around her, hundreds of other human ships emerged from locations that had seemed completely peaceful just hours earlier. The Draketh fleet was about to face an enemy unlike anything they had encountered before. The first wave of human fighters approached the Draketh ships in a formation that confused the alien computers. Most species fought in predictable patterns: straight lines, defensive circles, or standard attack formations. The humans moved like a school of fish, flowing around obstacles and changing direction in ways that seemed random, but were actually carefully coordinated. Draketh Admiral Krixtal watched the approaching humans and felt his first moment of doubt. His fleet had conquered 17 star systems using superior firepower and proven tactics. These small human ships should have been easy targets, but when his gunners tried to target them, the human fighters seemed to know exactly where the Draketh weapons would fire. They moved out of the way before the shots were even taken, as if they could predict the future. What Admiral Krixtal didn't know was that humans had been studying Draketh tactics for years. Every battle the hegemony had fought, every maneuver they had used, every weapon they had fired, all of it had been recorded and analyzed by human intelligence teams pretending to be peaceful observers. Commander Lim rolled her fighter between two Draketh destroyers, firing weapons that the enemy had never seen before. Her plasma cannons were based on Kalani technology, but improved with human innovations. Her missiles used Vorthak warheads with human guidance systems. Her shields combined defensive systems from 6 different alien species. The Draketh ships tried to respond, but their computers couldn't understand what they were fighting. The database said these were human ships, but they were using weapons and tactics from dozens of different worlds. How could one species have so many different technologies? On the surface of Earth, Colonel Bae Jun-sik was coordinating the protection of alien civilians while simultaneously directing special forces operations that seemed impossible. His soldiers appeared and disappeared like ghosts, striking at Dracoth ground troops and then vanishing before the enemy could respond. The Dracoth had landed troops in major cities, expecting to find helpless civilians and light police forces. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Sergeant Kang Woo-jin, still covered in dust from rescuing refugees, led a team through the ruins of Neo-Seoul. The Dracoth soldiers were using advanced armor and energy weapons, but they had never faced an enemy that fought the way humans did. Remember, Kang told his team over their private radio channel, they're used to fighting other aliens who follow rules and use honor codes. We don't fight fair. We fight to win. The team split up and approached the Dracoth position from 6 different angles. While the aliens tried to coordinate their defense, human soldiers attacked from above, below, and through passages the enemy didn't even know existed. Within minutes, an entire Dracoth platoon had been eliminated without a single human casualty. But the real shock came when Dr. Yoon Hai-wan began broadcasting to the entire galaxy. Her message was not directed at the Dracoth. It was meant for every other alien species watching the battle. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," she said, speaking from the rebuilt Peace Center, "for 47 years, Earth has maintained neutrality in your conflicts. You believed this was because we were weak or frightened. You were wrong." She activated displays that showed the true scope of human activities across the galaxy. Every diplomatic mission we sent to your worlds was also an intelligence-gathering operation. Every trade agreement included technology transfers that we reverse-engineered and improved. Every peace talk we mediated taught us how you think, how you fight, and how you can be defeated. The displays showed human researchers who had actually been military analysts, traders who had been intelligence officers, and diplomats who had been strategic planners. "We have been studying all of you for 50 years. We know your weapons, your tactics, your strengths, and your weaknesses. We know which of your technologies work well together, and which ones create vulnerabilities when combined." The most shocking revelation came next. We maintained neutrality not because we were afraid of war, but because we didn't need to fight. Why conquer worlds when you can learn everything you need to know about them through peaceful observation? Why build an empire when you can gather intelligence from every species that visits your world? Admiral Han Kyung-soo's voice joined the broadcast. The Dracoth hegemony made a critical error. They assumed that neutrality meant weakness. They thought a peaceful world would be easy prey. They were wrong on every count. On his command ship, Admiral Krixtall was beginning to understand the magnitude of his mistake. The human fleet wasn't just defeating his forces. They were dismantling them with surgical precision. Every time his ships tried a new tactic, the humans seemed to have a perfect counter ready. His communications officer turned to him with fear in his eyes. "Admiral, they're not just fighting us. They're broadcasting our tactical frequencies to our enemies. Every secret military code we have, they're sharing with the Kalani and Vorthak." Krixtall felt his blood turn cold. If their enemies got hold of Dracoth military secrets, the entire hegemony could collapse. But that was exactly what Admiral Han intended. "Engineering," Han called to his staff. "Begin Phase 2 of the operation. I want complete tactical information on every Dracoth military installation, transmitted to every species they've ever attacked." Engineer Park Chan-woo was coordinating the most ambitious intelligence operation in galactic history. For decades, human agents had been gathering information not just about alien technologies, but about their conflicts, their territories, and their military positions, sir, Park reported. "We have complete star charts for all Dracoth territories, including the locations of their hidden bases. We also have the personal files of their military commanders and the patrol schedules for their border fleets. Transmit everything to their enemies," Han ordered. "If the Dracoth want to fight a war, they can fight everyone at once." Within hours, 17 different alien species were receiving detailed intelligence packages about Dracoth military operations. Species that had been conquered by the hegemony suddenly had the information they needed to fight back. Border worlds that had been terrorized by Dracoth raids learned exactly when and where the next attacks would come. Intelligence Officer Kim, Nare was broadcasting continuous psychological warfare messages to Draketh forces, showing them exactly how thoroughly humanity had infiltrated their society. "Attention Draketh military personnel." Her voice reached every enemy ship and base. "Your communication codes have been compromised for 3 years. Your battle plans have been transmitted to your enemies. Your homeworlds have been mapped down to individual buildings. Your families are not safe. Your fleets are surrounded and your empire is collapsing." The psychological impact was devastating. Draketh soldiers began surrendering in large numbers, not because they were cowards, but because they realized their situation was hopeless. General Ro Tai-hyun coordinated the military response with precision that amazed even veteran human officers. His forces didn't fight like any known military doctrine, because they had synthesized every military doctrine. Against Draketh heavy cruisers, he used Vorthak hammer and anvil tactics. Against their fast attack ships, he employed Kalani precision strikes. Against their ground forces, he adapted Zephyrian guerrilla techniques. Sometimes he used all 3 approaches in the same battle, switching tactics so fast that enemy commanders couldn't adapt. But the most devastating human weapon was something no alien species had ever mastered: the ability to coordinate multiple different fighting styles simultaneously. While the Draketh were trying to understand what kind of enemy they faced, human forces were using their confusion to maximum advantage. Captain Shin Ye-jin led a stealth mission that infiltrated the main Draketh command ship. Using Kalani cloaking technology improved with human innovations, her team not only gathered intelligence but planted viruses in enemy computer systems. "Package delivered," she reported to Admiral Han. "The virus will activate across their entire fleet in 6 hours. Excellent. What about the secondary objective?" Shin smiled inside her helmet. "We now have complete access to their military database. Every Draketh base, every ship, every weapon system, we know everything." As reports poured in from across the battle zone, 3 months after the attack on Earth, the Draketh hegemony was collapsing faster than anyone had thought possible. What had started as a military defeat had become a systematic dismantling of everything the hegemony had built over decades of conquest. Captain Shin Ye-jin floated in the darkness between stars, watching a Draketh supply convoy approach her position. Her ship was completely invisible, using cloaking technology that combined innovations from 5 different alien species. The enemy had no idea they were about to walk into a trap. "Tiger Team, this is base," came the voice in her earpiece. "Target convoy is carrying medical supplies for Draketh forces on Kepler Station. Intelligence confirms these are the same supplies they stole from refugee ships last year." Shin felt her jaw tighten. The Draketh had a habit of stealing medical supplies meant for civilian populations and using them for their own military forces. Today that would come to an end. "Copy that, base. Beginning approach." Her team's ships moved like shadows through space. The Draketh convoy had 12 heavily armed escort vessels, but they were looking for traditional threats. They weren't prepared for an enemy that could appear and disappear at will. The attack lasted exactly 4 minutes. When it was over, the escort ships were disabled, the supply vessels were captured intact, and every Draketh crew member was in human custody. Not a single human ship had been damaged. "Medical supplies recovered," Shin reported. "Estimated value, enough to treat 30,000 civilian casualties. Transmitting coordinates to refugee relief ships." This was how the war had been going. The humans didn't just defeat Draketh forces. They rescued everything the hegemony had stolen and returned it to the species it had been taken from. Engineer Park Chan-woo was working in a captured Draketh facility, studying their technology with the kind of focused intensity that had made humans the galaxy's most dangerous enemies. Around him, other human technicians were taking apart alien equipment and figuring out how it worked. "This is interesting," Park said to his assistant. "Their shield generators use a frequency rotation system to prevent penetration. But look at this." He pointed to a display showing energy patterns. "If you hit them with 3 different weapon types at the same time, the rotation system gets confused and shuts down." Within an hour, every human ship in the fleet had been updated with new tactics for defeating Draketh shields. This was humanity's greatest strength. They could adapt to any situation faster than their enemies could respond. The Draketh had spent decades perfecting their military technology. Humans studied it for a few hours and found ways to make it useless. Intelligence Officer Kim Nare was broadcasting her daily message to Draketh forces across the galaxy. Her psychological warfare campaign had become legendary among alien military observers. "Attention Dracoth personnel," she began, her voice reaching every enemy base and ship through channels they couldn't block. "Today marks the 93rd day since your unprovoked attack on Earth. In that time, you have lost 67% of your military fleet, 34 of your forward bases, and control of 9 star systems." She paused to let that information sink in. "Your high command has been lying to you about your losses. They told you that Kepler Station was still operational. It surrendered this morning. They said your home fleet was safe behind its defenses. We destroyed those defenses 2 days ago without them knowing." Kim activated displays that showed real-time footage from inside Dracoth facilities. Human infiltration teams had placed cameras in locations the enemy thought were completely secure. "Every secure communication you send, we intercept. Every secret plan you make, we already know about. Every hidden base you establish, we have already mapped." The psychological impact was exactly what she intended. Dracoth military units were surrendering in increasing numbers, not because they were cowards, but because they realized their situation was completely hopeless. General Ro Tai-hyun was coordinating the liberation of worlds that had been conquered by the hegemony. His approach was unlike anything seen in previous galactic conflicts. Instead of simply defeating enemy forces and claiming territory, humans were carefully rebuilding the societies that had been destroyed. On Vega Prime, a world that had been enslaved by the Dracoth for 8 years, human forces worked alongside liberated civilians to restore their government and rebuild their cities. The humans didn't act like conquerors. They acted like liberators who actually cared about the people they were helping. "The key," General Rowe explained to his staff, "is not to replace one occupying force with another. We help them rebuild their own strength so they can defend themselves in the future." This approach was having an unexpected effect. Species that had been conquered by the Dracoth weren't just grateful to be free. They were volunteering to help fight against their former oppressors. Lieutenant Colonel Bay Junsik was training former Dracoth slaves to fight alongside human forces. These weren't professional soldiers, but they had something more valuable than training. They had personal reasons to want the hegemony destroyed. "Remember," Bay told his mixed human-alien units, "we're not just fighting to win battles. We're fighting to make sure this can never happen again. Every Dracoth base we capture, every ship we destroy, makes the galaxy a safer place for everyone." The combination of human tactical expertise and alien local knowledge was proving devastatingly effective. Dracoth forces found themselves fighting enemies who knew their territories better than they did and who had personal reasons to fight harder than any professional army. Admiral Han Kyung-soo stood on the bridge of his flagship, studying reports from across the war zone. The numbers were almost unbelievable. In less than 4 months, human forces had not only defeated the Dracoth attack on Earth, but had gone on the offensive and systematically destroyed most of the hegemony's military capacity. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving surrender offers from 6 more Dracoth systems. They're offering unconditional surrender in exchange for protection from their former slaves." Han almost smiled. The irony was perfect. The Dracoth had enslaved so many species that they were now afraid of what would happen if those species gained their freedom. "Accept their surrender," Han ordered, "but make it clear that protection comes with conditions. They will face trial for their war crimes and they will pay reparations to every world they conquered." This was humanity's strategy. They weren't just destroying the Dracoth military. They were systematically dismantling the entire structure that had allowed the hegemony to exist. Commander Lim Tahai was leading a fighter squadron through the ruins of what had once been the Dracoth Empire's most important naval base. The massive facility had been considered impregnable, protected by energy shields and hundreds of defensive weapons. It had taken her squadron exactly 2 hours to destroy it. The shields were impressive, she reported to Admiral Han, but they were designed to stop traditional attacks. When we hit them with modified Kalani quantum torpedoes, Vorthak disruptor beams and Zephyrian plasma charges simultaneously, their defensive systems couldn't handle the different energy types. This was the pattern across the entire war. Human forces would study enemy defenses, identify their weaknesses, and then use captured alien technology to exploit those weaknesses in ways the original creators had never imagined. Captain Shin Ye-jin's infiltration team had just completed their most ambitious mission yet. They had penetrated the Dracoth High, Command's secure communication center, and planted surveillance, equipment that would allow humans to monitor every enemy, military communication in real time. We now have complete access to their strategic planning, she reported. Every troop movement, every supply shipment, every tactical decision. We'll know about it before their own field commanders do. The war was becoming less like a military conflict and more like a systematic hunt. The Dracoth had become prey being pursued by predators who knew exactly where they were, what they were planning, and how to counter everything they tried. Dr. Yoon Haiwan was working with liberated alien populations to understand the full scope of Dracoth crimes. Her teams were documenting not just military actions, but the systematic cultural destruction the hegemony had imposed on conquered worlds. They didn't just take territory, she explained to a gathering of alien leaders. They tried to erase the identities of conquered species. They banned local languages, destroyed historical records, and forced populations to adopt Dracoth culture. This documentation would be crucial for the trials that would follow the war, but more importantly, it was helping human forces understand how to properly restore the societies that had been damaged. Intelligence reports were coming in from across the galaxy. The Dracoth hegemony, which had seemed unstoppable just 4 months earlier, was now reduced to holding a handful of systems around their home world. Their military was in complete disarray. Their allies had abandoned them, and their former slaves were hunting them with human support. But Admiral Han Kyung-soo was not satisfied with simply defeating the Dracoth. He wanted to send a message to the entire galaxy about what happened to species that chose to murder innocent civilians. Begin Phase 4, he ordered. It's time to end this war completely. The hunt was entering its final phase. 6 months after the Dracoth attack on Earth, the war was over. The mighty hegemony that had conquered 17 star systems was now nothing more than a handful of defeated worlds awaiting judgment. But the real change was not just the end of one empire. It was the birth of something entirely new in galactic politics. Director Kim Tae-min stood in the rebuilt Peace Center, looking out at a gathering unlike any in galactic history. Representatives from over 300 species filled the Great Hall, but they were not here for the usual diplomatic negotiations. They were here to sign a document that would reshape the galaxy forever. President Yang Mi-kyung approached the podium to address the assembled delegates. Her words would be broadcast to every world in known space. Fellow beings of the galaxy, she began. 6 months ago, the Dracoth hegemony made the greatest mistake in their species' history. They attacked innocent civilians on Earth, believing that our neutrality made us weak. Today we gathered to ensure that such a mistake can never be made. Again, she gestured to the document that lay before the assembled delegates. The Galactic Peace Accord represents a new approach to interstellar relations. Earth will no longer remain neutral in conflicts between species. Instead, we offer something better: active protection for any world that chooses peace over conquest. The hall buzzed with quiet conversations in dozens of different languages. The concept was revolutionary. No species in galactic history had ever offered to protect others without demanding something in return. Ambassador Park So-jin took the podium next. Her role had changed dramatically since the war began. She was no longer just a mediator. She was the architect of a new kind of galactic order. The Terran Protectorate is not an empire, she explained. We do not seek to rule other worlds or control their governments. We seek only to ensure that aggressive species cannot destroy peaceful civilizations. She activated displays that showed the new reality of galactic politics. Human ships now patrolled the borders of over 200 worlds. Human bases protected trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for centuries. Human forces trained local militaries to defend themselves against future threats. Any world that requests our protection will receive it, Park continued. But protection comes with responsibilities. Members of the Protectorate must resolve their disputes through negotiation, not warfare. They must treat their citizens with respect and dignity. They must contribute to the common defense against species that choose conquest over cooperation. Captain Choi Min-ho was coordinating the construction of new orbital defense platforms around dozens of different worlds. These weren't the deterrent weapons that had once protected Earth. They were active military installations capable of destroying entire fleets, but the most important feature of these stations was their crews. Each platform was staffed by joint human-alien teams, trained in human tactical doctrines, but adapted to each species' unique strengths and capabilities. The key, Choi explained to a group of alien military officers, is not to replace your defenses with ours, but to combine our technologies and tactics with your local knowledge and cultural understanding. On the former Draketh world of Corvin Prime, Governor Lee Min-jung was overseeing the reconstruction of a civilization that had been devastated by decades of oppression. The work was difficult, but it was also the most important task humanity had ever undertaken. "We're not just rebuilding buildings and infrastructure," she told her mixed human-alien staff. "We're helping these people remember who they were before the Draketh took away their identity." The reconstruction efforts were revealing just how systematic the Draketh oppression had been. They had not only conquered territories, they had tried to erase entire cultures. Human teams worked with liberated populations to recover lost languages, restore historical records, and rebuild the social structures that made each species unique. Dr. Yoon Hae-won was leading the most ambitious cultural preservation project in galactic history. Her teams were working with over 50 different species to document and protect their traditions, languages, and knowledge systems. The Draketh tried to create a uniform galactic culture based on conquest and oppression, she explained to a gathering of alien scholars. "We want to preserve the diversity that makes the galaxy worth protecting." Her work was having an unexpected effect. Species that had been enemies for generations were discovering shared cultural elements that helped them understand each other better. Ancient conflicts were being resolved through cultural exchange rather than military force. Admiral Han Kyung-soo stood trial before a galactic tribunal, but not as a defendant. He was testifying as the chief witness in the war crimes trials of former Draketh leaders. His testimony was being broadcast to every world in the galaxy. "The Draketh leadership made a conscious decision to target civilian populations," he told the tribunal. "This was not a military strategy. It was terrorism designed to break the spirit of peaceful species." The evidence was overwhelming. Human intelligence teams had documented every Draketh atrocity in meticulous detail. The trials would continue for years, but the verdicts were already clear. The galaxy would not tolerate species that chose genocide over diplomacy. But Admiral Han's most important testimony concerned the future, not the past. "Humanity did not seek this war," he said. "We spent 50 years trying to prevent it through peaceful means. But when forced to fight, we discovered something important about ourselves. We are very good at warfare. Perhaps too good?" He looked directly at the camera that was broadcasting his words across space. "This is why the Terran Protectorate exists. We do not want to use our military capabilities unless absolutely necessary, but we want every potential aggressor to understand that peaceful species are no longer helpless. Attack the innocent and you will face the full fury of humanity and all our allies." Commander Lim Daehee was training the first generation of joint human-alien fighter pilots at the new military academy on Mars. Her students came from 30 different worlds, all united by their commitment to protecting peaceful civilizations. "Remember," she told her mixed class, "we're not training you to conquer worlds. We're training you to protect them. The galaxy has seen enough conquest. It's time for a new kind of warrior, one who fights only to defend the innocent." The training program was revolutionary. Instead of teaching one species' military doctrine, it combined the best elements from dozens of different cultures. The result was a new generation of military officers who thought beyond traditional boundaries. Engineer Park Chan-woo was working on the most complex project of his career, the integration of technologies from every known species into a unified defense network. The goal was ambitious: create a galaxy-wide communication and defense system that could respond to threats before they became wars. "The idea is simple," he explained to his team. "If we can detect aggressive movements early enough, we can respond with diplomatic pressure instead of military force. But if diplomacy fails, we can coordinate defensive responses across multiple systems simultaneously." The technology was working. Potential conflicts were being resolved through negotiation backed by the knowledge that the Protectorate could respond instantly to any act of aggression. Intelligence, Officer Kim Na-rae had transitioned from psychological warfare to what she called psychological peacebuilding. Her broadcast now focused on promoting understanding between different species rather than demoralizing enemies. Citizens of the galaxy, her latest broadcast began. We stand at a unique moment in galactic history. For the first time, peaceful species outnumber aggressive ones. For the first time, cooperation is more powerful than conquest. For the first time, the innocent have protectors who can actually protect them. Her work was having a profound impact on galactic culture. Young beings from dozens of different worlds were choosing diplomacy over warfare, cooperation over competition, and mutual understanding over fear and hatred. The ceremony in Earth's Peace Center reached its climax as delegates from over 300 worlds signed the Galactic Peace Accord. Each signature represented not just a political alliance, but a commitment to a new way of thinking about interstellar relations. President Yang Mi-kyung delivered the closing address, her words carrying the weight of history. "Today, we do not celebrate the end of one war," she said. "We celebrate the beginning of a new age. An age where peaceful species no longer live in fear of aggressive empires. An age where cooperation is rewarded and conquest is punished. An age where the galaxy's diversity is protected rather than destroyed." She looked out at the assembled delegates, representing the hopes and dreams of trillions of sentient beings. Earth's age of neutrality is over. Our age of protection has begun. As the ceremony concluded and delegates returned to their homeworlds to ratify the agreement, Director Kim Tae-min walked through the corridors of the Peace Center. Through the windows he could see children from dozens of different worlds playing, together in the parks that had been rebuilt after the Dracoth attack. The memorial garden honored the 37,000 innocent beings who had died in that attack. But surrounding the memorial were schools, cultural centers, and research facilities where the next generation was learning to build a better galaxy.